be a hard development.
Well, I had already. Good. I don't know if I can develop this. But maybe.
In my laptop. Yeah, I
Okay.
Somebody from the area and see if they can say, oh, okay, you talk to somebody from Minneapolis, and they think it's, another time zone. Yeah. Thank you.
I couldn't.
Oh, we got turned on. I'm gonna shut it off.
No, I pulled the thing up.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't.
I do, housing basically, it's hard, yeah, tomorrow, and that'll be a little bit. Minnesota Housing,
Oh, you walking now.
I got a lot of health breaks this fall.
It was a switch on. turnout and it's got about 30-second
All right. See if this is 30 seconds later. Waiting 30 seconds. All right, good. Okay. Sean's like, you're loud enough. My name is Nicole Brunswick-Mickelson. I'm the Director of Region 9 Development Commission in Mankato, and I'll be serving as your moderator and also serving on the panel. We're going to be talking about redevelopment, and so if that's not what you're hoping to hear about, you're in the wrong room, but you're welcome to stay. So we have 5 of us who will be serving on the panel, talking about different projects from across our respective areas. First, you're going to be hearing from Tim Flathers from HRDC. He's going to be talking about single-family home redevelopment. And then you're going to be hearing from myself. I'll be talking about Medelia redevelopment of a small-town community. And then also from Region 9 is Christian Brecken. He'll be talking about a project we did in the city of St. Peter for a feasibility study, so more to come with that. And then also next will be Dawn Espy, who will be talking about the Sprout Growers and Makers Marketplace. Say that 10 times fast. And then the final panelist is going to be Kirk. He just has one name, or no, you both just have the one name on your name tag, I think, right? The Christian's like Prince, yeah. So Kirk Bostrom from the Upper Minnesota Valley RDC will be doing our final presentation as well. So, but without further ado, I'm going to let Tim Flathers take it over. So please help me welcome Tim Flathers.
Thank you, Nicole, and good morning, everybody. I have the opportunity today to spend a few minutes talking with you about a redevelopment project that we were involved in the city of Bemidji that was not necessarily the biggest and boldest thing we've ever done, but something that we found to be pretty impactful, and the timing was right. And so I thought I'd give a brief description of what we did, and then if you have further questions, I can talk with any of you about it down the road. Just to provide you a little bit of context, HRDC's been involved through partner organizations. We have a subsidiary corporation that does development, and we have staffed the Beltrami County HRA for probably 25 years or so. And we've done development through those entities, not as the commission itself. And we've done a lot of development of single-family homes. And what I want to describe to you is a little bit of an effort that we did where we developed homes on infill lots where we tore down some dilapidated single-family homes to make room for new single-family development. The city of Bemidji has always been really interested in having single-family homes built. They're a little different than a lot of communities in Minnesota. There's been a lot of multifamily housing built in Bemidji, but there has not been a lot of single-family development taking place. Habitat for Humanity is probably the biggest builder, and a lot of homes being built outside of town. And there's all kinds of reasons for that that I won't get into right now, but finding good buildable lots in town has been an increasing challenge over the years. And so the traditional models for getting homes done has been just difficult for us, and so we've always been looking for alternatives. We were at the point in the mid-90s building about 14 or 15 houses a year and selling them, and then we hit 2008 and the market crashed. And it was like, okay, we need to find another way to get our business done. Otherwise, it's laying off staff. You know, if we don't have a market for the houses we're building, we don't earn revenue. So we got to the point of changing our models to do purchase and rehabilitation of single-family homes. And we found that to be its own challenge. We found that there's a lot of ways to lose money and a few ways to make money. Very difficult work. But one of the learning experiences we had was that we realized early on that there needs to be a triage. There's units we can look at and maybe purchase and renovate and resell and make it work. There's a lot of units we look at and say, there's no hope for these units. They really need to be torn down. And that just gave us a little bit of insight that we used as we developed an additional model. I probably should advance this. Sorry about that. I wasn't even paying attention. found that even within all the challenges that we're facing, that we did have some interesting opportunities to pursue. I want to just provide a little bit of context for what I'm talking about here. Beltrami County HRA owned several units of transitional housing that were scattered around the city of Bemidji. They were managed by BICAP, so the HRA was kind of hands-off. BICAP had a grant that required public ownership of the units, so the HRA played that role and then sort of let BICAP do their thing. Over the years, those units deteriorated and got to the point where BICAP wasn't able to make them work anymore. And we made a pitch to Minnesota Housing to get the units out of the program so that they could be torn down, and Minnesota Housing granted that approval. First National Bank had some units that they took back from rental owners that were dilapidated. They didn't know what to do with them. Really, from a bank's perspective, the last thing they wanted to do was fix the units up just enough so they could continue renting them out. They don't want to be in that business. They were interested in getting out from under those units more than anything. And a couple other tidbits. BICAP runs a youth build program that was a part of the feedback or the information we needed to develop a response. And Northwoods Habitat for Humanity is an affiliate that builds homes in Beltrami and Clearwater County, but most of their homes are built in Bemidji. They want municipal sewer and water. And like I said earlier, finding buildable lots is a difficult challenge. Well, this is moving more than I wanted it to. That's okay. The model we developed, I'm going to be fairly brief here, but we got the bank to, it was really trying to figure out, okay, what are the interests of all these different players and how can we collaborate? And it always sounds easy to say we're going to collaborate, and as you know, it's always a lot harder in practice to do it. But the bank agreed that they would sell these homes for the price, they would sell them 3 lots to Habitat for the price that Habitat pays for a traditional building lot. So they got $12,000 per unit for these 3 dilapidated homes. They came out of it at a loss, but a better loss than what they normally would have had. Habitat for Humanity agreed to build homes on 3 of those lots, but they wanted the sites to be cleared. We got the city of Bemidji to commit local income from recycled small cities development program funding that they had on hand, and we used those funds to do the demolition. And the demolition was contingent on getting the units built, and the households had to be income eligible in order to meet the requirements of the funds. The city loved it because they got new housing out of it, but they also, from the finance director's perspective, loved it because they had the ability to use those funds rather than just sit on them, because the last thing they want to do is manage those funds and continue reporting on them. So we sort of created this win-win-win. BICAP, on the other hand, tore down a couple of the dilapidated houses that were formerly used as transitional housing units, and they created building sites so they could build homes that are available for their youth build program. Again, it's a program that's designed to, it's not a housing development program, it's a training program for youth, but the housing is a really nice byproduct of the program. You get an affordable single-family home, and the requirement is that the home gets sold to a moderate income first-time home buyer, so it meets everybody else's objectives as well. And so the results are, we got several new houses built. It's not a fast program. Habitat built their 3 units really quickly. Those are all done. BICAP has built 1 home, and they've torn a house down that is ready for construction of a new youth build program. I think it's going to start yet this fall. They've just cleared the site, so we're anxious to see it continue. We know that those recycled funds are available. We know we can replicate this in Bemidji because we have the builders that don't rely on getting market value when they sell the homes. Or they don't rely, they're not concerned about a value gap. Habitat doesn't worry about that. We don't need to get an appraisal. Other communities, we have to find the nonprofit partner that can actually do the development. But we'd like to make this program replicable throughout the region. We know we're going to replicate it in Bemidji, and we're hoping to make it more broadly available. And with that, I'm going to this continue with other speakers, and then we can have some questions at the back.
If you have any questions, let's ask him now, because I'm going to have to do my flash drive
That's perfect.
transfer. So questions? Please, buy me some time. Thank you.
Sorry.
Do you ever face any pushback from your local zoning commission in any of these projects, or are they pretty on board with the?
On these projects, we have not. On other projects, we certainly have. It's an adventure in Bemidji.
What I was gonna ask is, in terms of square footage, how do the new houses compare to the ones that you're taking now?
Oh, that's a great question. I would think, we've had a variety of what we're pointing out. Some were fairly good-sized structures, but we're building fairly small, slab on grade, 1,300 to 1,500 square foot homes. They're not huge. We try to make them fit within the character of the existing neighborhood, and so many of the lots we're building are 50-foot lots. And so, one interesting thing I'll mention is two of the houses at the bank sold Habitat, side by side. And when we started the project, there were probably 15 for sale signs in the neighborhood. And when we tore the units down and built the new housing there, they magically all disappeared. Not all of them, but most of them. So we can tell, we don't have data, but we can tell just anecdotally it was really transformation.
All right, any other final questions? Hopefully not at the moment, so to make sure I'm doing my job as a timekeeper. I'm not breaking cams or using my cell phone, it is my clock. So I would not do that. So thank you to Tim. All right, and next, if the internet works, the sound works, I want to play a video. My presentation is about the city of Medelia. They had a tragic fire a few years ago, but if the video works, that'll be better than hearing just from me. So let's give this a try, and then I'll jump into my PowerPoint after. I have a feeling this might not work. Is anyone good at IT with sound? Maybe not. That's okay. So there's a really cool video. If you want to check this out later, if you just type in Vimeo and Medelia, you can check this out later as we did do this project. But because that is not going to work, which is fine, we'll go back to the old PowerPoint. All right, here we go. See if this is going to work. All right, so our presentation is about kind of partially with the redevelopment and the role that Region 9 played with the fire in downtown Medelia, but then also I talk a lot about how to kind of help manage the media, so you'll hear a lot about that. The city of Medelia is, and I'll show you here our region. Sorry, I'm kind of struggling with these little clickers here. All right, so here's our region, Region 9. The city of Medelia is in Watonwan County, and so it is a small community, about 2,200 people. February 3rd, 2016, at 2:29 a.m., an explosion occurred in the 10 block of West Main Street in Medelia, Minnesota. One of the property owners living in an upstairs apartment in the building heard the blast and reported being thrown out of his bed for an initial explosion. All right, so this was also during a horrible blizzard, with horribly freezing. And this is what it looked like prior, and this is what it looked like the day after. So as soon as the fire was finally almost put out, and for a community of 2,200, it's very atypical that this community had all of their downtown storefronts were filled. And so the population, 2,200, about just shy of 30% is Hispanic Latino population. It's a really unique community, very close-knit. And so kind of what happened. So we heard about the fire. I literally got a text that morning from my mom saying Medelia had a fire. I'm like, okay, thanks mom. And she's like, no, Google it. And it was like, oh, this is a really, really big deal. So what happened is I called our state senator, Julie Rosen, and then the then state rep for that area, Representative Tony Cornish, and the three of us kind of did an impromptu press conference. To give you an idea of the magnitude of what the impact was for this community, they had 8 fire departments that were all volunteer, had responded in the middle of a blizzard. They had to follow the snow plow to get into town because the blizzard had shut down just south of the highway by Medelia. They actually had to close the whole highway down. Over 100 firefighters responded to this fire. 35 to 40 impacted workers. 8 private sector businesses were destroyed, and I actually argue it was 9 because there was a Hispanic grocery store was just about to open next door to the La Plaza Fiesta, a really good Mexican restaurant. And then 106 years of combined years of service for all of these businesses. And that is over $3 million in combined sales volume. So again, in a community this size, that's a huge, you can only imagine that impact. And then also the amount of dollars in lost wages and benefits. So kind of the call to help, what did we do? It was apparent right away that the city staff, as you guys all know, they don't have the resources, or not that they don't have the talent, but they don't have the time to be able to know all the different pots of funding, who to call, etc. So it's kind of apparent that if we didn't kind of play that role, who was going to? And so I had stated that we, Julie Rosen, Tony Cornish, myself, were all 3 that were kind of on staff right away, or kind of jumped and called in. That morning I had called the governor's office right away. I said, there's a fire in Medelia. They said, where's Medalia? Where is that? I'm like, the governor was there last year for the pheasant opener. Oh, okay. So he came down about 2 days after that, after we did our little mini press conference at the city right away. And so you can see here, sitting next to me is Mayor Mike Grote. And then next to him, then Governor Mark Dayton, and then Mark Den, the fire chief, and then I forget her title, one of the commissioners of the emergency response, forgot the title, but so they all responded right away with us and kind of helped tell the story. The business owners were there, the whole community, everyone kind of helped try to tell the story of what a unique issue it was. I'm forgetting, I forgot to start my timer. Shoot, okay. So I'm going to kind of keep going here. I'm failing at being a moderator and timekeeper here. So Region 9, what did we do to kind of keep the whole progress going? It was, the biggest thing is that everyone wanted to help. Everyone was like, what can we do? Reporters were calling, they were bombarding the city. And the community was stressed out. It was a very emotional time. Everyone was connected and related. And it was, I kind of found the jobs of how can I help? And they were like, can you just go and talk to the reporters? Sure. And so really it was just keeping the media away from the business owners. They're going through an emotional time. WCCO wants to talk to them, and then, the next news station wants to talk to them. And so kind of ended up playing kind of the role of being the kind of a public information officer, kind of unofficially. And so we did over 7 TV interviews for them, state and local, 6 radio interviews. And then again, to just protect the business owners and the residents, we then, okay, next. We then kind of said, I worked with the Mankato Free Press, is the biggest paper in our region. I worked with the local reporter. I said, look, if you stay out of my way, I will meet with you once a week. On Wednesday at 10 o'clock, I will tell you everything I know, and I will give you all the information. And so that worked out great. And so kind of working with her, and then I worked with the other, all of our other distribution lists for all the other press. We put together this kind of e-newsletter to just keep communicating for the community, all the residents, our partners, legislators, everyone wanted to know what's going on, how can they help. Because again, you have to keep in mind that these are all private businesses. It's very unique because there wasn't any official grants that were going to work, because it wasn't really public infrastructure that was affected. Yet you could argue the community was going to die if these businesses did not have the opportunity to rebuild. And financially, as you know, it wouldn't make any sense for them to reinvest, but they all decided to do that. So kind of with handling the media, something that I kind of wanted to share is just to really being consistent with the message, kind of being out front and being proactive, working really coordinated ways with them, kind of helping plan a transition for the roles, and then just making sure you're being very fair and consistent with the media. And our biggest thing was just helping kind of control the story to make sure the narrative, because it was getting really doom and gloom, and the community was getting really upset saying, no, we are open for business, we will rebuild. They had the whole hashtag Medelia Strong going, started doing fundraising, etc. And so that day, the same day that the fire hit, after I called the governor's office, I called the Blandon Foundation. I said, look, wait, I'm going to need help. I don't know what they're going to need, but we're going to need something. He said, Nicole, I can give you $50,000 if you work with Tim Penny at the Initiative Foundation. You two can decide how you want to divvy up the funds. So I said, they don't have a comp plan. And so Tim and I divvied up the $50,000 because that would have prevented the trigger from having to go to the board and have a whole big, long, slow granting process. For $30,000, we did their comp plan, so at least then that would then set them up for success, get the group together, be providing all the input of how they wanted to shape their community. $20,000 then went into business loans, into grants, that then the Initiative Foundation managed all those funds and worked directly with the affected business owners. We then had the deed commissioner. She had been the deputy chief of staff for then Governor Dayton. She then was promoted to be the deed commissioner, which worked out fantastic because she was my point of contact throughout the whole time. So you can see her in the photo here. Ryan Vischer in the blue shirt, he is the owner of Hope and Faith Floral, where the fire started. His daughters are named Hope and Faith, and that's where the fire started, was in his building. He is now the fire chief, and he was on the fire department at the time as well, kind of interesting. Jane Keepgrass is the gal kind of standing in the striped shirt. She was the then city administrator, now has retired. And then Tim Penny standing next to her, who was a member of our member of Congress and leads Initiative Foundation Southern Minnesota. And then Danny Walchuk, one of our then planners, is standing next to me. And again, to kind of keep, once the fire was put out, all of the kind of information, people were going to slowly kind of go away. We kind of keep that story going, and so it was how to help make sure the resources could be there. To make a long story short, there weren't any grants, as I had kind of referred to, and so we worked with the federal EDA and with DEED to kind of help tell the story, to say, look, we're going to need to do something here. And so to make a long story short, we were able to get $100,000, the most from a TA grant from the federal EDA, which was then matched dollar for dollar by DEED. We believe this first time that was ever done, and so what we were able to do for $100,000 for the whole project was we were then able to do an economic resiliency plan. We believe it was the first ever for a community of that size. Typically it's only like Flint, Michigan and San Francisco, or cities that had economic resiliency plans. You can find that on our website. And so we were able to do that. And then also the community said we want a marketing and communication strategy. We want the narrative to be, we are open for business, come back to town. And I was like, I don't think EDA is going to go for that. And then since they heard directly from the city, they were like, no, we'll fund that. Oh, all right. So we were able to do all of that. Again, that's on our website. I know we're running long here for time. But we were able to do that for $200,000 to work with the community. So that was really unique, and we were really proud that we were able to do something. Of course, everyone wants just money to help rebuild, and those grants just were not there. But again, more fundraising happened that went to the business loans as well, and in addition to the blended $20,000, so a lot of Tony Downs, a food producer, meat packaging plant, they donated a lot right from day one. I'm getting long here, so I'm going to keep rolling. Senator Klobuchar was fantastic, helping support our federal EDA bill. And then also, we do a regional bus tour once a year, and we went back into the community, and the moderator there is Brad Arenstorff, the neighboring community. He's the mayor of Lake Crystal, and he was our then board chair, and so he helped lead that conversation with Mark Den, the fire chief, and then Ryan Vischer, owner of Hope and Faith Floral. Ashley Aukus is sitting in the center there. She was our communication specialist at the time. Carla Angus is the chamber director, and then Mike Grote, the mayor, sitting next to her. Carl is fantastic. I do encourage you to check out that video that we did on Medelia on Vimeo, but technology wasn't working. And with that, that is what I have for now. I don't know what I did for time, so I'm sorry. For Christian is up next. I don't know if we have questions for now, so I'm going to let Christian go next, and then we'll handle it later. But I'm going to change this slide so we're not staring at my face. Okay. All right, Christian is up next.
Come back to follow. Yeah, I'm Christian Brecken, or as my name tag says, just Christian. I guess that's what I'm known in greater Minnesota. Usually I come with subtitles, so I hope you can understand me in my accent. I'm going to talk about something that took place a lot shorter, but also within the region 9. In January 2019, so this past January, we were approached by the St. Peter region. St. Peter is just about 15 miles north of Mankato. It's the home to State Office College and also the state's maximum security hospital for the criminal insane. The Legion has a strong presence in the community, has about 300 active members right downtown. And last year they received a very nice gift. They received a restaurant gifted to them by a bank. The restaurant had been out of business for about 2 years. It was a very popular restaurant in the St. Peter area. It's actually across the Minnesota River in the Missouri County, but yeah, 5 minutes walk from downtown St. Peter. So the bank gifted this to the Legion with the hopes that the Legion would utilize this space to expand their activities. The Legion has a phenomenal reputation in the community. It's very, very active, in addition to operating the traditional bar and running bingos and comedy nights and other activities within the confines of that space. What the Legion didn't expect was that there would be, dare I say, a lot of infighting about what was going to happen with the space. The restaurant that was gifted was called Whiskey River. You can Google it and see pictures online of it. Currently says permanently closed. It's going to be reopened this fall, I think. It's 9,000 square feet. Not the typical restaurant you see opening these days. We did a tour. I've been there several times as a customer and did a tour of the kitchen, and I'm pretty sure the kitchen itself is the size of this room, with a bar pretty much along two sides of it. So kind of like a supper club, like an old-fashioned supper club on steroids. So there were voices within the Legion that were concerned, what's going to happen if we take over this restaurant and we move our activities from a space that really needed updates, and we move over in this massive space that we had no plans of operating. So in mid-January, we had a meeting at a coffee shop in St. Peter. It was myself and Corey, our communication specialist. We met the chair of the gift committee for the American Legion. And they said, we really need some sort of study because the 300 members cannot come to an agreement. There were pretty much 300 opinions about what the Legion should do about this space. And no one could agree on anything. And not only that, the entire community of St. Peter was very invested in the question because it is a prime spot on the river. It's in a flood zone, so that was a risk in itself. But it has kind of a historic value to the residents of St. Peter. Lots of rumors was going around town, you know. Gentlemen's Club is moving in, moral panic kicked in. The other rumor we heard was that the Raccoon family had moved in. We walked in there and it was as if they just closed one day and left. The plates were on the tables, dishes were still in the sink. The owners just closed one day, handed it over to the bank. So the Legion asked us to do a feasibility study. And we said, sure, absolutely. And we were very willing. Nicole was very supportive of doing a study at a kind of a discounted rate. So it was going to be myself and it was going to be Corey, our communication specialist, who was going to conduct this. And we were envisioning maybe a 6 to 9 month kind of study. So I remember asking the gift chair, when do you need this done? I remember this was like January 15th of this year. We need it by March 26th. And ideally, we would like to see the report 3 weeks early, so we're looking at early March. So we had 6 weeks to do it. But it was an important enough issue for the community, not only the Legion, but for the community of St. Peter, that we said, yeah, let's do it. It's an important part of redeveloping a site of St. Peter that otherwise would just sit empty. We also wanted to help the Legion try to make the best possible decision. We made very clear to them that they said, we're not going to make a recommendation to you. We're going to provide different scenarios, and then you choose which one you decide to do. So we started with kind of the background, background work on the community, and found that, yeah, I mean, operating a restaurant in St. Peter is actually not as lucrative as you'd like to think, even though it has a college there, it has a relatively high income level. You start looking at the numbers. They have more restaurants per capita than San Francisco. They have more bars per capita than New Orleans. So for the Legion, Legion to kind of move into a 9,000 square foot space and think they're going to be successful might not be as easy as they think. So to give you an idea, our calculations were that they would have to have sales of 1.8 million a year if they have limited service, meaning dinner and lunch. And they could bring that number up to 1.2 million in sales annually if they staff that entirely with volunteers. So basically, there's something, you're not going to be able to operate this space. So one option would be to divide the building in two, because it actually lends itself to dividing it in two. So the other recommendation was basically saying, you know, run one side of the restaurant, lease off the other side, and you become a landlord. And then we started the last part, I'm going to try to make this quick here. The more we started talking to the Legion and also to community members, we started, we did surveys, we had about 200 responses. We interviewed people in the stakeholders in the community. And the idea came up, why is the Legion even in need of a space? We did renovation estimates for the current space, very, very expensive. Renovation estimates for the new space, very, very expensive. So the last step was starting to look at who are participating in the Legion today. And we realized that it's typically white males over the age of 50. But if you look 10 years down the road, the fastest growing group of veterans in that region are women under 40. And they may not be looking for a traditional bar setting. So I contacted the chair of the GIT committee and said, you know, I'd really like to put in this recommendation that says, you know, do away with any physical space. Get active in the community and become a service organization that can move around and take advantage of other spaces in the area. And you probably should sell the space. And you got realtors to come in and suggest a price, and a few months later, they sold the space. And another restaurant that has a kind of horse bar concept from all town is coming in and opening up with major renovations this fall. For us, a very small study. It was a very quick study, but it was not something that we expected to see happening. We thought we were going to go in and just do renovation estimates and calculations on what the sales could be. But it was one of those where you really start digging into redevelopment in a small community. You realize you really have to talk to the entire community, and that's, I think, was the success of the story. The end, I guess, we brought some copies, so if any other regions are interested in seeing when we did that. The region has been kind enough to say, yes, there's some information in there that's, I think it made me core cringe a little bit, particularly the section where the Legion members evaluate themselves. But the Legion said, that's who we are, and we're probably no different than any other organization. So they've been kind enough to say, if the other regions are interested in reading the study, they can do so. Thanks.
Any questions for Christian while Dawn brings up her PowerPoint? If not, that's fine. I'm doing my best at being timekeeper here, somewhat successful. All right. Please welcome Dawn Espy.
I'm going to share our story about the Sprout Growers and Makers Marketplace, which is located in Little Falls, Minnesota. In about 2012, Region 5 did a resilient region plan where we were trying to figure out what we were going to do with the recession happening. And out of that plan came the idea that local foods was a really big asset in our region, but we were shipping all of our agriculture out rather than utilizing that asset right in our 5-county region. And so Cheryl Hills and Arlene Jones, who is the owner-manager of Sprout, got the brainchild to start a food hub within central Minnesota. And so they were fortunate enough to find the Crestliner building which was an old boat manufacturing space in Little Falls that had gone out of business. Huge vacant warehouse building, and they were able to take a portion of that to create this food hub. And so there are a lot of moving parts to this particular story. So some funding was secured from the USDA in order to put in a commercial kitchen. I would almost just like to play this slideshow so I can just go over and over again. Anybody know how to do it? Okay. All right, so the food hub contains a commercial kitchen, so it's a 20,000 square foot space that was repurposed within this Crest Slider building. There's a commercial kitchen, there is a marketplace, obviously what this picture is here. There's freezer space, there's refrigerator space, there's storage space for dry goods. And so what this particular facility has done for Little Falls is it's created this space where people can come together for these markets, as well as utilize the space for value added to agricultural goods within their community. So Sprout officially opened, after all the renovations were done, officially opened in April of 2016 is when they had their grand opening. That's kind of when I came into the picture. All the building and everything, the funding for all those sorts of things happened prior to me being a part of Region 5. So when I came onto the scene, I was really excited about seeing the space that was there. It was really fun to watch the progression, but it was really slow. So the first time we opened one of these markets, it was a couple vendors, a little bit of food happening for lunch in the kitchen. Just kind of felt quiet and lonely, but it was still this really cool concept that we were trying to build. I think the big turning point for the Sprout Marketplace was when Region 5 was able to secure an Our Place America grant in 2016. So we were able to secure a $474,000 grant for a period of 3 years, which helped us to turn Sprout into, in my opinion, what it is today. With those funds, we put almost $200,000 back into our local artists. So we contracted, we put out requests for proposals to artists and contracted with artists to create art pieces that now reside in the Sprout Market. Let's see if I can find. So if you notice on the back, I've never used one of these before. Right here. So that's one of the pieces of artwork that we had commissioned by a local quilting organization. So they quilted us 7 different language banners throughout the marketplace that are hanging in certain places that let folks know, here's the kitchen, here's where the restrooms are, here's where the marketplace is. We have welcome in 6 different languages listed on these banners because we wanted to be able to make sure we were creating a space that everyone felt welcome to come to. So aside from the $200,000 we were able to put back into commissioned art, we also offered educational classes for growers and for makers. The space was for beginning entrepreneurs, for folks that had been in the field for a long time. We reached out to our growers and makers and said, what do you need to grow your businesses? And so they came back with, we'd like some QuickBook classes or we'd like some business plan classes. So we were able to use those dollars as well to host classes within the Sprout facility. We also were able to do really unique events like this event. This is a harvest dinner. We've done these 3 summers in a row now. We pair a farmer with each one of the tables, and the farmer contributes one of their commodities towards the summer harvest dinner. We then also have local chefs come in and work with those farmers to create an entree or dessert or appetizer based off of what the farmer is able to provide. And so then we invite the public. They get to sit at a table with a farmer, learn more about their farm, and also enjoy a really great meal with some wine pairings from local wineries. We host 6 marketplaces each year, only in the winter months because we don't want to be competing with the local farmers markets. That was something we didn't want to do, was push aside something else for the sake of Sprout. So what can we do to fill in the voids? So from October through March, we have the Sprout Growers and Makers Marketplace. We have about 40 local vendors at each one of the markets, anywhere from local pork to birdhouses. We have an 11-year-old girl who started making her own jewelry and has been very successful, so it's really fun to see the young entrepreneurs come out as well. We always have music, so this is a local band from the St. Joseph area. While we're not in our region, Sprout serves a region of 100 miles radius of Little Falls. We also always have a cooking demonstration at each one of the markets. And each one of the markets also celebrates a different culture. So for example, at this market we were celebrating East African culture. So we brought in a restaurant owner from the St. Cloud area and he made us camel. And I couldn't try it, but my husband tried it. So you're able to really get unique things like that happening in this marketplace where people can come and experience new cultures, people can try new foods, people can buy local art, and have a sense of community as well. There's another cooking demonstration. This is the classroom that we're able to host classes in. This whole classroom was really not great looking when we first took it over, but we were able to repurpose some barn wood from a local barn to be able to make the classroom a more usable space. And local art, we bring in local artists. This is James from Long Prairie, helped us with that art piece. And then each year we also host a minced competition where we bring in local chefs, kind of like Chopped, only minced. And we bring in local chefs, and we have the public there voting, and it's a really lively event on a Friday night. And so I have magnets and I have guides over there that kind of talk about all of this. The magnets list our dates for our markets, and the next one is this Saturday. We're celebrating the youth culture. So we have Pro-Start kids from Sauk Rapids and Rice in the kitchen making butternut squash bruschetta. And then we have a teacher-student jazz band that will be performing as well. There's so much more to tell, and time is up, so thank you.
I have just one question.
Yes,
Did the camel taste like chicken?
I think it did.
All right, and our final presentation is Kirk from Upper Minnesota. We'll be talking about a deed project turned opportunity zones. Please help me welcome Kirk.
Well, thank you. Good morning, all. My name is Kirk Boostrom. I am a Senior Regional Planner with the Upper Minnesota Valley Regional Development Commission. For those of you that are somewhat new and may not be real familiar with the regions, we cover a 5-county region in southwestern Minnesota. On the South Dakota border, Big Stone, Chippewa, Swift, Yellow Medicine, and Lac Pearl counties. In terms of this panel, I wanted to, for those of us that work on redevelopment projects, I kind of wanted to touch on one that had some unique aspects and also some things that are timely that I know those of us that are working on redevelopment are facing. Specifically, the unique aspect about this project was that it was something that started out as an initial type of engagement for this project, and it morphed into something else in terms of what we provided for the community. The timely part about it was that what it eventually morphed into was an opportunity zone project, which is something that's fairly new to all of us, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. But the project was for a building in the central business district of City of Granite Falls. And it was a building that's been around for a very, very long time, had many tenants over the years, nothing very unique about the building. It wasn't historic or anything like that, but it was light manufacturing, in the central business district. And in the early 2000s, the City Economic Development Authority had worked with the tenant there, the manufacturing tenant, to acquire the building from them and move them out to the industrial park. So all good news, the company stayed, they grew, but the city was left with this property. And the city acquired the property and had some tenants utilize it throughout recent years, but had an ultimate goal to redevelop that property, potentially demolish the existing structures and put something else new. So in 2018, and those of you that are familiar with the deed demolition and redevelopment grant program, it's a program that has not been consistently funded over the years, and generally is funded at a relatively small amount, which means that from a statewide perspective, it's extremely competitive for projects. So we worked with the Granite Falls Economic Development Authority to put together a redevelopment grant proposal under that program, with the idea that because of the competitive nature of the program, it was potentially and probably unlikely that they would be able to access funding, but they wanted to try it anyway. So we put together a grant proposal to demolish the property and redevelop it into a mixed-use structure that would be 2 stories, professional and retail, commercial space on the bottom floor, and multifamily housing on the upper floor. And as we kind of anticipated, they were not awarded funding for that project through deed. So at that time, the Opportunity Zone project, or the Opportunity Zone initiative, was underway, and that particular census tract that the city of Granite Falls was in was designated as an Opportunity Zone. So as we're all trying to figure out exactly what that means, the EDA at Granite Falls as well, and what do you do with that, and how do you attract investment through that program to fund projects, there was a statewide organization called the Minnesota Opportunity Zone Collaborative that was kind of coordinating project development across the state. And they developed a plan for what they call the Minnesota Opportunity Zone Challenge. And it was a way for projects across the state to develop a project portfolio, more or less a prospectus about their project, and present it to a group of potential investors. It would be a challenge kind of format where winners and losers would be chosen from the projects that were presented to the Opportunity Zone Collaborative. So we were engaged to the city of EDA, or the city of Granite Falls and their EDA engaged us because they thought, well, maybe we can access some funding through Opportunity Zone equity funding with private investors. And they didn't really know how to do that, how to approach it, how would they go together, put together a project portfolio for this project. So they engaged us to do that, and we worked with them to put together a project portfolio, which in effect is a prospectus for their project. And they were asking for roughly $5 million in equity investment for this project, for this new structure. And they presented it to the Opportunity Zone Challenge, and that took place in just September of this year. And they won a runner-up prize of $5,000 to go towards the further planning of their project. But the important piece is that they learned, along with other projects across the state, how do you put together one of these opportunity zone project portfolio to provide a perspective for investors, and how do you get in front of investors to initiate interest in equity funding for that project. So rather than make a presentation up to you up here, and this is before I knew that Cam had the rule about not using your handheld devices or phones, but I thought interesting, kind of more interactive way for you all to get a chance to see how the Opportunity Zone Collaborative put this directory together of projects. If you pull out your phone or your iPad or whatever you use, go to, you can either search MN Opportunity Collaborative. The website itself is mnopco.com. And if you scroll down, you'll see a link to directory. And the directory lists all the projects that presented to the Opportunity Zone Challenge. And you can see the project was named the Granite Falls Clock Tower Development. If you click on that link, it brings you to a really cool kind of ArcGIS story map that is the project portfolio for the Opportunity Zone presentation for that project. And then it's alongside all the other projects, so if you're interested in looking at what some of the other communities did for their projects. What we hope the next steps are is, as part of their award for being runner-up for this challenge project, they had investors come to Granite Falls and look at their project. And the hope is that it generates some interest and hopefully somebody will invest. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we have time for about 2 questions perhaps. Not everyone at once. I'm going to bring this up also so you can check this out later. Just remember to go look this up. This goes somewhere else. Questions?
Who made up the collaborative?
Pardon?
Who made up the collaborative? Who were the members?
So, Minnesota Opportunity Zone, the Minnesota Opportunity Collaborative was, if you're familiar with a gal named Lynn Osterman, she kind of is,
She's kind of responsible for coordinating it. The entity that they partnered with to kind of develop the portfolios and put together the directory was Northspan out of Duluth. So if anybody from ARDC is here, they might be able to give you some more information about that. The goal is that this directory will be available through it's a national organization that coordinates equity projects for investors to look at. So, but if you go to that webpage and look at the Opportunity Zone Collaborative page, it talks about what their goals are and who plays a role in that organization.
All right, let's do one more thank you for my esteemed colleagues here for the presentation. It is 10:31, so we have to now shift to the next session. Thank you, everyone.
I don't want you to. I get it. You have to go completely blind like you did. Otherwise, it's not worth it.
Yeah, so there's that picture, which.
No, yeah, it's scary to think about.
I love that they mentioned the phone sign in that. Oh, that's all. Press was
I think it's taking you guys. Look like
Right. That's bad enough. They have a lot of events yeah, they just do it. They only, like, if you could do those on a consistent basis, it's staff too. Oh, that is. Right, yeah. Yep, they're gonna be here. I know, it's such a fine.
Standing up and I'm adjusting, and then I'm like, oh, you are? I was telling him that corner when we stand off the bridge or whatever, I'm switching this side.
There you go, right on the edge there.
Yeah.